So remember, how do we work out our factorized expression? Did you remember that we had to do something with the highest common factor? Remember, when we want to factorize, we want to find the HCF of the terms, the highest common factors of the terms. We take the outside of the bracket and then we divide each term by it. So let me do an example with you. If I have 10x plus 15y, alright? So if I have 10x and 15y, what would the highest common factor be? So I want the biggest number that you can divide into this guy and this guy. The obvious one is just 5, right? I can divide 10x by 5, and I can also divide 15y by 5. So I can take the 5 outside of bracket. So then I have 10x. The second step is you want to divide each term by the highest common factor. So 10x divided by 5 is 2x plus 15y divided by 5 is 3y, because 5 times 2x will give me 10x. 5 times 3y will give me 15y. So from this expression to this expression, this is called factorization or factorize. This process is called factorize, right? So what it's saying is, I want to take the factor of these two terms outside of the bracket. That's why it's called factorize. But if I give you this and I ask you to expand, what I'm asking you to do is multiply whatever is outside by whatever is inside the bracket. That's called expand. Okay, but in week 4, this week we want to focus on factorization or factorizing. So let's look at question 1a. So we want to find the highest common factor of the first term and the second term. What is the highest common factor? So what can you divide into 2a and -6? Okay, obvious one is 2, right? I should be able to divide 2a by 2. I should be able to divide -6 by 2, right? So I'm going to take this 2 outside of the bracket. 2 bracket. So next, what we're going to do is, the second step, remember, is to divide each term by the highest common factor. So 2a divided by 2 is a, right? 2 times a is 2a, so 2a divided by 2 is a. -6 divided by 2, what's -6 divided by 2? -3, right? Because 2 times -3 will give me -6. Let's try b. 8b plus 16. So what's the highest common factor? What's the highest number that you can divide into 8b and 16? Have a think about it. You should be able to do it. Highest common factor would be 8, right? I can divide 8b by 8. I can divide 16 by 8. You may say, oh yeah, I can divide 4. Like 4 can be divided into 8. 4, I can divide 16 by 4. But 4 is a common factor, but 4 is not the highest common factor. We want the highest common factor, not just any factor. You can see 2 also works, but 2, we can't use 2 because it's not the highest. Okay, so 8 is the highest common factor. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have 8 outside of the bracket. Now the next step is I want to divide each term by the highest common factor. 8b divided by 8. Basically, I'm asking, what do you multiply 8 with to get 8b? Obviously, it's b. Right? And what do I multiply 8 with to get 16? Or 16 divided by 8 is just 2. Or positive 16 divided by 8 is positive 2. So my answer is 8 bracket b plus 2. I might do 6e with you. Okay, so this one looks a bit annoying. I've got -8 and -6. So what is the highest common factor? Have a think about it. What is the highest common factor here? The highest common factor is, well, what number can I divide into -8 and -6? Obviously, it's going to be -2, right? So I'm going to take the -2 outside of the bracket. So this one is quite tricky because it deals with dividing by negative numbers. So what is -8 divided by -2? Remember, 2 negatives becomes a positive. -8 divided by -2 is +4. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Remember, a negative number times a negative number becomes a positive number. Same as divide. A negative number divided by a negative number, you get a positive number. So -8 divided by -2, you're going to get +4. And what about -6e divided by -2? Again, a negative number divided by a negative number, you're going to end up with a positive number. So -6e divided by -2 is going to be positive. What, 6 divided by 2 is 3. And you need to have an e. So -2 bracket 4 plus 3e. Let's check our answers. How do we check? Well, we're going to expand this and see if we are going to get this expression. So to check, we expand to check. How do we expand? We use what law do we use? Distributive law. Whatever is outside, multiply by the first term, plus whatever is outside, multiply by the second term. So let's check. Whatever is outside is 2 times the first term, which is -4, plus whatever is outside, which is -2, times the second term, which is 3e. Okay, -2, sorry, that's a +4, -2 times 4. I wrote that one wrong. Sorry about that. The first term is 4, so that shouldn't be negative. So -2 times 4 is going to give me -8, right? -2 times 3e. I've got negative times a positive, which means the answer is going to end up negative, right? Negative times a positive will get a negative. So it becomes -6e. -8 takes 6e, which is the same as that, right? This guy, which means I have factorized properly. All right, I will do one more with you. Maybe I will try 2a with you. Factorize 8ab plus 2a. What is the highest common factor? What is it? So what can I divide into here and here? The biggest number. Don't freak out, even though there's a's and b's in there. Well, if you look at 2a and 8ab, wouldn't the highest common factor just be 2a? Because 2a, you can divide 2a into 8ab, right? From 8ab. Have a think about it. If I have 8ab divided by 2a, so basically what I'm saying is 2a times something can give me 8ab. Right, 2a times 4b is going to give me AAB, right? So I can actually divide AAB by 2a. So the highest common factor here is 2a. Which means I'm going to take 2a outside of the bracket. And I'm going to divide the first term by the highest common factor. 8ab divided by 2a, which In other words, I'm saying, what do I multiply 2a with to get AAB? Obviously, it's going to be 4b, right? Because 2 times 4 is 8. A times b is 8b. And then 2a divided by 2a. This is tricky. What's 2a divided by 2a? I have 2a divided by 2a. What does that equal? Is it 0? Is it 2a? What about if I ask, what is the 1000 divided by 1000? Remember, whatever number divided by that number itself is going to be 1. Right? If you've got a number dividing it by itself, it's going to be 1. So 2a divided by 2a is going to be 1. So positive 2a divided by 2a, you're going to get 1. So your answer for this question is 2a bracket 4b plus 1. Alright, let's do a few more. Maybe we can try E. 3xyz plus 9xy. So we need to find, again, what do we always find first when we want to factorize? We want to find the highest common factor. So if you're not sure, you can just look at the numbers first, 3 and 9. What would be a common factor between highest common factor between 3 and 9? Just ignore the letters, just look at the numbers. Highest common factor would obviously be, it has to be 3. Now ignore the numbers and look at xyz and xy. What is the highest common factor between xyz and xy? The highest common factor between xyz and xy. Well, obviously it has to be xy, right? Because xy, obviously you can divide xy by itself, and xyz, obviously you can divide xyz by xy. Because xy times z is xyz. Very easy. Which means the highest common factor here would be 3xy. Because 3xy has to be able, you would be able to divide 3xyz by 3xy. Because 3xy times z is going to give me 3xyz. And 3xy times 3 is going to give me 9xy. So, what do you do with the highest common factor? You take it out. 3xy bracket. First term divided by the highest common factor. 3xyz divided by 3xy. You are going to have z left, right? Because 3xy times z will give me 3xyz. Next, the second term, positive 9xy divided by 3xy. What would you get? So 3xy times what will give me 9xy? Obviously, it's just 3. So your answer would be 3xy bracket z plus 3. Okay, so let's step it a bit more because I think you guys are doing great. Maybe we can try, okay, let's do a harder one. Let's try 3a. Okay, what do we do in 3a? We've got 20 PQR plus 14 PQ squared. As I said, let's do it separately. Let's look at the numbers and then we will look at the letters. Between 20 and 14, what is the HCF, highest common factor, between 20 and 14? Highest common factor is only 2, right? They are both even numbers, so yeah, I think 2 is the best we can do. Now we look at PQR and PQ square. What would be the highest common factor? What does Q square mean? Q square means Q times Q. So this whole chunk means P times Q times Q. So what can divide nicely into this and this? Well, the only one you can really see is PQ, right? PQ exists here, PQ exists here. which means the highest common factor has to be PQ, because PQR, you can divide PQR by PQ, and you can also divide PQ square by PQ, because PQ square is just P times Q times Q. So PQ is just P times Q. So obviously you can divide that by that. So PQ is the highest common factor. So which means the highest common factor between these two terms would be 2 times PQ. So highest common factor is 2PQ. So I'm going to take 2PQ outside of the bracket and have the bracket 20 PQR divided by 2PQ. So you're going to do it separately again, numbers by number, letters by letters. So 20 divided by 2 will give you 10. PQR divided by PQ. PQR divided by PQ. P divided by P is 1. Q divided by Q is 1. So it's just 1R, which means it's just R. So your answer would be 10R. Now let's do the second bit. 14 PQ square divided by 2PQ. 14 divided by 2 will give me 7. It's a positive divided by positive, which means it will be positive 7. PQ square divided by PQ. Let's look here. PQ square divided by PQ. What does PQ square mean? It means P times Q times Q. What does PQ mean? Is P times Q, right? So P divided by P is 1. Q divided by Q is 1, which means I have got 1 Q left. Q. So your answer is Q. So you put it in there. So the factorized expression would be 2PQ bracket 10R plus 7Q. That's how you do it. So what if you have more than 2 terms? Are you still doing the same thing? Yes, you are. You just need to find the highest common factor for the 3 terms. Okay, I will do one last one with you, and then I will let you do these challenging ones yourself. So let me try, maybe I'll try 3D with you. So I've got 6x plus 3y plus 12xy. What do you need to find first? Highest common factor. Again, as I said, you look at the numbers by themselves first, 6 and 3 and 12. What is the highest common factor between 6 and 3 and 12? Obviously, it's just 3. Then you look at the letters x and y and xy. X and y and xy. What is the highest common factor between these 3? Is it x? No, it's not, because I can't divide y by x. Can it be y? No, I can't. It can't be y because I can't divide y by x. Which means there's no really highest common factor. The highest common factor between these 3 is just 1. Which means there's no high common, it's just 1. It's 1. So the highest common factor between these 3 terms would be 3 times 1, which is just 3. So we're just going to use highest common factor as 3, because these x and y and xy, you can't do better than 1. Alright, so what do you do with the highest common factor? You take it outside of the bracket. You have the bracket here, and then you divide each term by the highest common factor. 6x divided by 3. 6x divided by 3 is, or another way of saying is 3 times what will give you 6x? 2x, right? 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2x will give me 6x, right? Plus 3y divided by 3. 3y divided by 3 is, what is it? Y, because 3 times y is 3y. Positive divided by positive, positive. 12xy divided by 3. So 12 divided by 3 is 4, and then you're going to have your xy, right? Because 3 times 4 is 12, 3 times xy will be there, xy will go there. So your answer would be 3 bracket 2x plus y plus 4xy. So it doesn't matter, I can have 100 terms. Your working out is still the same. You want to find the highest common factor between those 100 terms. You take it outside a bracket. Then you divide each term inside a bracket by the highest, you divide each term, each of those 100 terms, by the highest common factor, and then you chuck them inside the bracket. That's what you do for factorizing. Okay? Hope that helps.